lines N and P lie in the XY plane. Is the slope of line N less than the slope of line P? So no real information about our lines. Let's look at our statements. Statement 1, lines N and P intersect at the point 5, 1. So we have a coordinate plane. Our points intersect here at 5, 1. That is all we know. This does not really tell us anything about our slopes, because I can have line N be positive, line P be negative. In this case, therefore, N has a greater slope than P. However, I could have just as easily reversed my line so that this is P, this is N. Now P is positive, N is negative, and therefore P is greater than N. So this is a case where we're not testing numbers, but we're testing sort of diagrams in order to prove insufficiency. Statement 2, the y-intercept of line N is greater than the y-intercept of line P. So again, if we draw a coordinate plane, we don't know anything other than N's y-intercept is higher up on the y-axis than P's. And so this is still going to be insufficient because we can just do the same thing we did before. This does not tell us anything about our slopes. We can have N be positive, P be negative. So in this case, N has a greater slope than P, but we can also have P be positive and N be negative. And so in that case, P is greater than N. Insufficient. Now, together, what do we know? So we're still sort of anchored to this point 5, 1. And we got to take into account this y-intercept rule. So N has to be higher than P. So we can have, let's start with one case here. Well, let's just say N is here. P is, so N is positive up here. P is also positive, just a little bit below N. So in this case, so both of our slopes will be negative. So having this point here sort of now dictates what the slope of our line is going to look like. And so what do we notice here? So N, because it's higher up, is going to have a steeper slope. That means N is going to be more negative. And so take a second to think what that means. If it's more negative, that means it is less than P. So the fact that our slopes are negative, the fact that P is a flatter slope actually means P is the greater slope. So right now we have one example where we got N is less than P. Can we get a different example? So let's say, remember, so N's always got to be higher up than P. So what if we just move P down here? Well, if we did this, P is going to be positive now. Well, N is still negative. And so this is just going to give us another case where P is greater than N. What if we move both of our lines down so they're negative, or so their y-intercepts are negative? So say N is here, P is here, so both our y-intercepts are negative. N still has to be higher up because N has to have a y-intercept that is less negative. So in this case now, both of our slopes will be positive, right? But P has the steeper slope here. So if our slopes are positive, the steeper slope is going to be greater because it's going to be more positive. So this is just another case where P is greater than N, and it looks like no matter how hard we tried, we are not going to be able to prove insufficiency. And so that is good enough to say C is sufficient. If you don't believe me, you can keep trying, see if you can come up with two cases where N is greater than P.